We are joined now by our good friend Julie Kelly. We were just talking earlier in the program at the top of this hour about all of the craziness coming from the federal district court judges. And Julie, I'll start off with this. I said that I am somewhat optimistic that things are going to get better with the judiciary in the years ahead because Trump lost. I mean, Trump won. And I think one reason Democrats lost was because they went so political. You have been covering, and they try to put him in prison and they try to bankrupt him and all those things. You've been covering these cases like crazy. We've never seen anything like the resistance that Trump is getting from the federal district courts right now. Are you optimistic in the future, or do you think our judicial system is just a huge pile of steaming poo?
Well, I hate to disagree with you, but I'm going to go with the latter because, of course, I have covered, especially in Washington, D.C., and I've talked about with you guys what's happened with the J6 proceedings in Washington and the case against the president. These judges feel impervious, and they have not been held accountable. When Chief Justice John Roberts issued that really inappropriate, I think, statement about impeachment, it's not his place, number one. The problem is not that impeachment is thrown around or overused. The problem is that impeachment has not been used. I think 14 federal judges have been impeached. Only 8 have been convicted. Congress has completely abdicated its oversight role of the federal judiciary. So this is how you get Jim Bossberg, and this is how you get Tanya Chutkan and Beryl Howell and these other judges, because they know they're not accountable. So until these judges are held accountable, and not by being reversed by the Supreme Court, I saw that in the immunity case, I saw that in the Fisher, the overturning of the 1512C2 against J6ers. These lower court judges don't care. And if they're Democrats, they don't think that the Supreme Court is legitimate anyway. So this is a serious crisis. This is why the public's trust in the federal judiciary is at an all-time low. And Republicans who are threatening to file articles of impeachment, I think some have been filed, or to strip jurisdiction from some of the most egregious political actors on the bench, or simply to shut down the D.C. federal court system, which I've advocated for years. Strong measures need to be taken. Otherwise, this is going to actually get worse.
It really bothers me, Julie, to see how much the D.C. Circuit Court is essentially an extra branch of government. It's like the fail-safe for the deep state, right? They can bring any case they want there, and they know that unless the Supreme Court steps in, they'll get their way. And this is very clear. The fact that they didn't, I always have to remind people of this, that none of the J6 related individuals were able to get a different venue for the trial. I think Timothy McVeigh was given a different venue for his trial from Oklahoma City, if memory serves. Like, this is a standard thing in the justice system for people, if there's considered to be a prejudiced jury, to be able to get it. No one, right? No one got the court or got the jurisdiction, the venue moved from D.C. So that's very troubling. Some of these district judges, though, the stuff that they've come up with, the ones that to me are, well, the turning around of the plane with the Trent Aragua guys, that seems to be the most egregious, I think, to most of us. But a couple of other ones, Julie, and you're familiar with these different judges, I know, too. So that's a thing. You know who these individuals are from covering them. The judge who said that you can't ban transgenders from serving in the military. And now there's a judge that I believe has ordered the DOJ to return men to a women's prison who say they're transgender. Like, they're just making up laws now.
They are, and they're completely undermining. And these are all related to presidential executive orders. So what you're talking about is Anna Reyes, who is the first LGBTQ Biden-appointed district court judge in Washington, basically reversing, vacating the president's executive order on transgenders in the military. Royce Lamberth, a Reagan appointee, who I watched just absolutely throw the book at J6ers, throwing grandmothers in prison for 57 months on the obstruction count that was later overturned. And he himself rejecting the president's executive order and ordering the government, us, to pay for hormone therapy and transitional surgery for these judges who are in prison. These are criminals, right? We're not just paying, for whoever wants it. They are in federal custody. And then, of course, Jim Bossberg ordering verbally for the Department of Justice and DHS to return flights that were already in the air out of U.S. airspace, very likely traveling over either Mexico or Central America, ordering the return of those flights carrying known illegal immigrants for suspected Venezuelan terrorists tied to that CDA gang. Who do these judges think that they are? And so now what Bossberg is doing is, I think, setting up a contempt trap, because he was saying, well, I made this verbal order. You should have turned the planes around. No plane should have taken off that day at all, because I was holding this hearing, and this is a temporary restraining order that he issued, actually 2 of them, on Saturday that will last 14 days. And again, preventing the president and his team from executing his proclamation over the weekend of the Alien Enemies Act. So, excuse me, this is very reckless, very destructive and dangerous. No one should be defending what these judges are doing. Now, of course, all of these are going on appeal. There's oral arguments in this Venezuelan terrorist case on Monday afternoon. I'll be covering that live. But I'll tell you, as bad as I knew these judges were, and how they just repeatedly denied, to your point, due process for J6ers, refusing in every single case to move those trials out of Washington, D.C., to now see them leap to the rescue and allegedly protect the quote-unquote due process rights of illegal and suspected gang members from Venezuela that pose a legitimate threat to this country, not the J6ers did. It's pretty head-spinning hypocrisy.
We're talking to Julie Kelly. Julie, you mentioned the Jan Sixers, and when you first started coming on with us 4 years ago, you were one of the very few people out there actually shining a light on how they were being treated. Given the Democrat obsession with January 6th and the years that they spent on it, are you somewhat surprised that Trump came in, immediately pardoned every January 6er, and the story just vanished? I mean, isn't that kind of interesting? Because there were all these arguments out there. Oh, if Trump pardons all the Jan 6ers, this will be a constitutional crime. And he did it. And no one even mentions hardly January 6th anymore. Are you surprised at how quickly it's kind of vanished?
Yes, I will say that I am. As you guys know, I talked to the president a few days before Inauguration Day, talked to him at length about what had happened to the J6ers. The various pardon proposals. He expressed he was very committed to blanket pardon with a few exceptions, and that's, of course, exactly what he did. And there was some noise about it for, a week or 10 days, and then has completely disappeared. And the Democrats even want to forget about January 6th. I think it was Jamie Raskin said a few weeks ago, oh, can we stop talking about January 6th already?
It's really funny.
When? Right.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I am very surprised, but happily so. And, it's great to see these people starting to pick up the pieces of their lives. But, I was reading one of the filings today in the Venezuelan terrorism case, and these illegals have stables of lawyers defending them and fighting the government on behalf of the alleged rights that these illegals have. And it's really disturbing that we saw none of that for American citizens wrongly prosecuted for participating in the events of January 6th. I mean, this whole legal judicial system is so upside down.
Well, can I just jump in really quick, Julie, to say that from my understanding from friends in the legal world, if you would defend Osama bin Laden, obviously that won't happen, but if someone could do that, that would be considered a feather in their legal cap going forward. They could say it's like John Adams defending the redcoats, like everyone deserves. But no one felt that way in a lot of the big law firms and in sort of the big law world about J6 Americans.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Most of them relied on public defenders. Some of those public defenders were very good. Others were terrible. And I saw both sides to that. But going back to Jeb Bossberg, I was in his courtroom in December, the week before Christmas. He put a woman who went inside the Capitol for 9 minutes, committed no violence, charged with 4 misdemeanors. He put her on trial the week before Christmas before a D.C. jury, jurors from a city that had just voted 92% for Kamala Harris. He completely ignored her pleas to postpone the trial until after the president was inaugurated, knowing that she would be getting a pardon because, of course, she only had misdemeanors. And he denied postponing that trial, put her on trial for 3 days. She was immediately convicted by the D.C. jury. So that's the mindset of these judges. No due process, no protection of constitutional rights for American citizens because they're Trump supporters. But he swooped in Saturday as soon as he possibly could, ordering planes to be turned around, carrying Venezuelan terrorists, and now fighting the government for disclosure details of those deportation flights. How can the government deal with someone like that? You can't.
Buck, I'm glad you brought that up about the quality of legal representation, because I remember this was one of the first things we talked about with you, Julie, was you were raising money so that the lawyers could be better. Mm-hmm. John Adams defended the Boston Massacre British soldiers in a pre-revolutionary America, for people out there that have forgotten, because it used to be a basically foundational belief of lawyers that everybody deserved the best possible legal representation, even people who were accused of heinous crimes. And to Buck's point, and I know you saw this, Julie, everybody wants to line up. I've got friends who worked on 9/11 prosecutions. The people who were involved in flying planes into our buildings have elite representation. I don't begrudge that, because I think that is the American system of justice. But Julie, just to kind of finish here, how many elite lawyers were willing to step forward and volunteer their time to rep the J6ers?
There were no elite white shoe law firms that stepped up to defend a single J6er, not one. Again, there were some very good lawyers, some that were retained privately, most that were court appointed or public defenders, but not a single. You see all of these law firms lined up, not just defending these terrorists, but fighting the Trump administration on anything. These are all big name law firms. No, none of them stepped up for American citizens because they considered them terrorists. You know, the Venezuelan gang members with tattoos all over the place who have suspected ties to TDA, they're not terrorists. They're victims. But you walk inside the Capitol for 9 minutes, commit no violence, and you have the chief judge of the D.C. District Court putting you on trial in the most democratic city in the country for a quick conviction. So no, none of them did. So shame on these law firms. And this is why I'm so glad to see the president doing what he can to vilify these law firms, strip them of security clearances, access to documents and buildings, and doing, damage to their business, because that's exactly what they deserve.
Julie, keep up the good work. Look forward to talking to you again, and thank you for the last 4 years. How awesome you've been talking to us and keeping us updated on all this.
You guys are awesome for always having me on. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Good stuff. Look, the Clay and Buck March Madness brackets, they're posted. Stake bet on the line. And Good Ranchers, man, it's a good thing they have good steaks, because Buck is going to have to buy me a great steak when his bracket crumbles and I surge into a victory. But we had last week in the Travis household, or the week before last, we were out of town on spring break last week. Week before last, we had amazing steaks. My wife Laura cooked them straight from Good Ranchers, delivered to the door. Variety of subscription boxes out there, including my personal favorite, the tailgate box. It's got everything you could possibly want. Go check it out online at goodranchers.com. These are safe, incredibly healthy meals for you and your family. No antibiotics, no added hormones. I'm telling you, you are going to love it. Get hooked up right now. $25 off when you place your first order at goodranchers.com. Buck loves the chicken nuggets. You can get salmon. You can get chicken. You can get great steaks that are the equivalent of fabulous steakhouses where you would go out and pay a bundle, eat them at home like we did a couple of weeks ago. The boys loved them. You'll love them. Take care of your family at goodranchers.com. my name Clay for $25 off delivered straight to your home. Again, goodranchers.com, CLAY, to save $25.